Have you ever had that feeling deep in your gut that something is just not right? That feeling you try to ignore, telling yourself you're just being paranoid. Well, today's story is about a guy who learned the hard way that sometimes you should absolutely trust that feeling. This happened to a 28-year-old man named Adnan, living by himself in a small apartment in Lahore. What he experienced wasn't some over-the-top supernatural event. There were no ghosts, no monsters, no dramatic chase scenes. It was something simple, subtle, but it was enough to change his life forever. Picture this. It's late. Really late. Adnan has just gotten home from a long, exhausting shift at work. The clock on his wall reads 2:47 a.m. He goes through the motions he does every night and locks the apartment door. Steps inside, tosses his keys onto the small table by the entrance. It's the same routine, the same quiet apartment, the same end to another long day. But tonight, something felt different. An unspoken tension hung in the air, a stillness that felt heavier than usual. He stood in the middle of his living room, just letting the silence wash over him for a moment. And that's when he heard it. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming from the corridor outside his apartment. They weren't rushed, and they weren't dragging. They were measured, steady, with a rhythm that seemed almost unnatural. His first thought was that it was probably just a neighbor, maybe someone coming home late like him, or heading out for an early start. It made sense, eh? But then, the footsteps stopped, right outside his door. The sudden silence was even more jarring than the sound itself. Adnan froze, every muscle in his body tensing up. He held his breath, listening. For what? He wasn't sure. And then it came. A knock. It wasn't loud or urgent. It was 3 soft, almost gentle taps. Toke, toke, toke. The sound was so quiet it was almost polite, which somehow made it even more unnerving. Adnan didn't move. He definitely wasn't expecting anyone who would come to his apartment at nearly 3 in the morning. His mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe it was a delivery mix-up, a neighbor in trouble. But the softness of the knock didn't suggest any kind of emergency. It felt personal. A minute crawled by. Then another. The silence from the other side of the door was absolute. No more knocks. No shuffling feet. Nothing. Finally, Adnan gathered a sliver of courage. His heart was pounding against his ribs like a drum, but he told himself he was overreacting. He tiptoed to the door, his steps silent on the cool floor. He leaned forward, squinting one eye to look through the peephole, and that's when a wave of pure, icy dread washed over him, making the hair on his arms stand up. Through the distorted, fisheye lens, he saw him, a man standing completely still in the dimly lit corridor. He was tall and thin, his frame casting a long, strange shadow on the wall behind him. His head was lowered, his face completely obscured by the shadows, hidden from the weak glow of the hallway light. He wasn't moving. He wasn't speaking. He was just standing there, a silent, motionless figure right outside Adnan's door. Adnan's throat felt dry, but he managed to whisper, his voice barely audible. "Bye. Who are you looking for?" The words felt heavy, absorbed by the thick wood of the door. The man didn't respond. He didn't even flinch. It was as if Adnan hadn't spoken at all. The stillness was terrifying. Adnan stumbled back from the door, his mind screaming at him. This was wrong. This was so wrong. His hands shaking, he fumbled for his phone and quickly dialed the number for his building security guard. When the guard answered, his voice groggy with sleep, Adnan tried to keep his own voice steady. "Hello." The 3rd floor. The guard took a moment to check his monitors. His reply sent another chill down Adnan's spine. "Sir, nobody is on your floor right now. I can see the cameras. It's completely empty. Everyone is asleep." empty. But he had just seen him. He was right there, confused and terrified. Adnan Ungapi had to be sure. He had to look again. He crept back to the door, his heart hammering in his chest, and pressed his eye against the peephole one more time. The man was gone. The corridor was empty, bathed in the same dim, orange light as before. It was just an empty hallway. He spent the rest of the night wide awake, jumping at every creak and groan of the old building. He tried to convince himself that he had imagined it, that fatigue from his late shift had played a trick on his mind. It was the only explanation that didn't fill him with absolute terror. The next morning, sleep-deprived and on edge, he remembered something that made his blood run cold all over again. The door camera. He had installed a small Moshaki-rated camera a few months back, for peace of mind. He'd almost forgotten about it. With trembling fingers, he opened the app on his phone and checked the recordings from the previous night. And there it was. The footage was grainy, but undeniable. At exactly 2:49 a.m., the camera was triggered. The tall, thin man slowly walked into frame, his face hidden in shadow, just as Adnan had seen. He approached the door, stopped, and leaned forward slightly, as if he were listening for something, or someone, inside. Then he raised his hand and knocked softly, 3 times. Adnan watched, his breath caught in his throat, as the figure on the screen waited in silence. But what happened next was far worse than the knock. The man didn't leave. Instead, he did something utterly horrifying. He slowly bent down, his movements unnaturally fluid, and pressed his eye directly against the keyhole of Adnan's door. The camera captured him, holding that position, completely still, for a full 43 seconds. No blinking, no movement. Just watching. It was as if he knew. He knew Adnan was right there on the other side, holding his breath, paralyzed by fear. He wasn't just knocking, he was observing. The police were called. They reviewed the footage, but it was a dead end. The man's face was never visible, always perfectly angled away from the light, always hidden in shadow. He was a ghost on camera, a phantom at the door. They never found him. To this day, Adnan still lives in that apartment. He can't afford to move, but things are different now. Some nights, when the world is quiet and the clock ticks past 3 a.m., he hears them again, faint footsteps in the corridor. But he never, ever goes to the door. He never checks the peephole anymore, because he learned a terrifying lesson that night. Some whispers in the dark are not meant for you. And some knocks you should never, ever answer. Thanks for watching. If you have a story that keeps you up at night, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true scary stories. Stay safe out there.